Welcome to Chess, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. So I did ask a question yesterday. You know, what did people want to see? And people said Eugene Torre versus Mikhail Tal. And, I already did a game between them. So I was actually, I was going through the files. And I was kind of afraid that they only played one game together. But I ended up finding there's 5 total games that they played with each other. So, I got one of the games here. So this is taken from 1987. So I wasn't even 1 year old yet when they played this game. Not like I knew anything about chess anyway. But they played this. This is the 1987 Swift. It was a Blitz tournament that they played, and they played it in Brussels. So I got all my people in the Philippines. Mabuhay to you. Kamusta na aking makaibigan. Maraming salamat po sa nanonood ng aking mga video. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Anybody who is coming from Latvia, I will say, man, I'm forgetting, but I got it. Svieki, hello, and paldies if you are coming from Latvia. Anybody who is coming from Russia, I will say privyet and spasibo. Anybody coming from Ukraine, I will say privit and spasibi. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. But yeah, man, if you guys are ready to go with these two legends, former world champion, could have been, world champion at one point. Definitely had a lot of wins against world champions, man, for real. But if you guys are ready to go, man, let's take a look and see what we got for this game. So we got the move D4. We got knight to F6. We got knight to F3, E6. So we get a transposition coming up. We do see C4 and D5. Of course, as you guys know, you can get to this from a different move order. Personally, the way I get to it would either probably be something like this, and I would go C4, E6, knight going to F3, avoiding the Nimzo, and then after D5, you would see the move C3. As you guys can see, we are in the same exact position. And then we do see bishop to B4, which is the Ragozin of the Queen's Gambit decline. And I mean, basically everything is fairly clear. Like, if you're kind of like taking a look and paying attention, white would love to get D4, E4 in, and black knows this. So that is why D5 is played and knight to F6 is played. And this bishop is tying this knight down to this king, basically trying to make it impossible to push E4. If you play D4 and you can get the E4 pawn push in, then you are living a very happy life. So we do see bishop to G5, and we are still fighting for the E4 square. It takes a lot to do it as white, though. I'll tell you that. So we do see the move H6, bishop taking F6, queen taking F6, and then we do see pawn taking D5, pawn taking D5, and then A3. This bishop is actually a little bit annoying if you are white, so you kind of want to get rid of it. So the pawn does take, the bishop does take on C3, and then pawn takes on C3. And then we have, you guys guessed it, I know you knew it, C5. You guys know that whenever you play D4, C5 always has to be on the menu if you are black. We do see the move E6, or E3, sorry. Knight comes to C6. Bishop goes to E2. We got castles and castles. Bishop to E6. And this is actually the novelty of the game. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, not that there's really a big threat on this D5 pawn, but I mean, it's just a logical place to develop the bishop. You could really put it anywhere. I mean, you can go D7, you can go E6, F5, G4. They're all logical options for you to make. But, I mean, both sides are pretty much just done what they need to do. I mean, the queen just kind of needs to go somewhere for white, and we'll be good to go. So we do see that immediately, queen to A4. And, I mean, it's super even. I mean, it's pretty much a dead 0-0. That's what the computer says. Nothing to worry about. But everything is everything. We do see the queen going back to E7. We got rook F to D1. We got rook A to C8, rook A to B1. And, both sides, basically white, I mean, both sides are doing it because they're kind of, X-ran through this to get this pawn. But you're just kind of trying to see, like, anything that your opponent has weak to try to attack. This B7 pawn is a little bit weak since this bishop did move. So that's kind of something you're thinking about. And also something that doesn't seem completely obvious is both sides thinking a little bit into the future. So if this pawn does capture here, this rook is nicely placed to start attacking this d5 pawn and to start, you know, kind of taking over this half open file. And black is doing the same thing. You know, black is thinking pawn takes, pawn takes. I got this rook already positioned on this open file. So not only are they doing things immediately, but they're also kind of thinking into the future. Like, okay, what can the pawn structure look like coming up? So that's definitely a little bit deeper going on. So the rook does come to c7. We got bishop to b5. We got bishop down to f5. And this is actually a very, very nice move. It was definitely the top move in the position. And I mean, basically you have a bishop. So what better way to use a bishop than to attack not only a diagonal, but a much heavier piece in this rook. This rook is actually nicely placed where it wants to be. So now it's kind of inconveniencing the rook just a little bit. So we do see a rook coming up to b2. Pawn taking d4, pawn taking d4. So exactly what I was telling you guys before. You know, now that we do have this completely open file, this rook is actually placed perfectly here. And what do we do to try to maximize that? Rook f to c8. And now we have both the rooks completely trying to take over this file. We just kind of have to move this knight out of the way at some point in the future. So we do see rook b to d2. And this is something I wanted to honestly say. Black has a slight advantage. So it's not like black is just completely winning. But, I mean, I think this looks super strange. I mean, these rooks, I mean, you know, they're not on a half open or an open file. They're literally just kind of just like biting against their own pawn. So, I mean, that probably ties into, you know, black being just a little bit more superior in the position. I just think it's interesting movement of the rooks. We do see bishop to g4. And this comes with a very real threat because you're thinking of trying to compromise white's pawn structure, which white really doesn't want. So we do see the bishop going back to e2, retreating. And then we do see the move b6. Queen goes down to b3. Yet again, like I said, I mean, this bishop did move away, and it was the principal defender of this pawn. So, I mean, why not try to attack that pawn? So the queen does come down to d6. And I have to say that black's position is actually looking really, really good. You know, they have this completely open file taken over. You know, you can tell that their pieces are a little bit more bunched up than blacks are. Blacks are a little bit more forward. They're attacking a little bit more. The structure and everything's good. Even though they do have this isolated pawn, white has their own isolated pawn over here as well. So we do see queen coming down to a2. We got knight over to a5. Now black, now it might kind of seem like, well, why, if I'm black, why am I putting my knight on the rim right here? Well, the thing about it that you have to think about is black is actually thinking of trying to create a pass pawn. If you can successfully land this knight here, you know, it's really, really a horrible square if you're white for black's knight to be on, because it is attacking, I mean, your comfortably placed rook right here, and it's just too deep in your position, so you really want to trade it. But if you did, you got a pawn taking back, and now you have a completely passed pawn, so there's a lot of legitimacy to this move. The knight does come up to e5. You know, black, one of black's nice pieces is his bishop, so you really kind of want to try to get rid of it. So we do see bishop taking e2, rook taking e2. We got rook down to c3, just infiltrating into the position. We got the move a4, and then we have the move rook to a3. And this is actually kind of a cute move, but it's a little bit dangerous in this position. You know, you are attacking this queen, and you're attacking this pawn at the same time. The only thing about it is that pawn is actually not completely grabbable as people might think it is. So the queen does go down to b1, and then we actually take rook on a4. Rook takes a4. So we have actually reached the point in the game that if you do want to pause the video, there's a really, really nice move that Eugene Torre finds in this position. Because that pawn was really kind of poisoned, go ahead and pause the video and try to find that move. Okay, cool. So, the problem that you kind of have to think about as far as black is concerned is that his pieces are not coordinated. Now, by that, what I mean is, you know, when you're playing chess, one of the things that you want to check on your own pieces is that your pieces are coordinated. They're protecting each other. They're kind of moving as a unit in the position. What you notice about this position is this queen is undefended on d6. This rook is undefended on c8. This rook is undefended on a4. So you can see that the pieces are not kind of working together for any particular purpose. And they've kind of gotten stretched thin just to grab this pawn, right? So Eugene Torre, noticing this, he says, okay, is there a way that I could try to make it work to where I can exploit these weaknesses that black has in their position? And so he finds the move, knight takes f7. Might look somewhat strange at the beginning, but that has a very real threat behind it. And this is what you guys saw in the, well, no, you didn't. You didn't see that. I was going to make this the thumbnail, but I made another position. Anyways, you absolutely cannot take this knight here, because you guys see that the queen going to f5 with check is now forking the king and this undefended rook. So that is the problem when you have undefended pieces in your position. You have to try to make sure that you're not undefending your pieces. So if the queen does come over to f6, we got queen taking c8, and I mean, this is just completely lights out. So, of course, Mikhail Tal is like, bro, I'm not going to go ahead and do that. So, after the knight does take on f7, he does go down to b4. But the problem is, this is even worse of a position than letting your rook get taken on c8. The queen does come to g6. And we are pinning this pawn, and we are threatening some checks. So we do see rook going down to c6, knight taking on a6 with check. The king goes over to h8. We do see queen going to e8 with check. The king goes down to h7, and then we do see the knight retreating to f5. And I mean, in this position, I mean, white is actually plus 11 here. You know, it doesn't probably seem obvious. One of the things that I want to reiterate is it does seem like black's rooks are much better than white's rooks, because you see white's rook is not doing anything. It's just kind of like biting on this e3 pawn. And then this rook is doing the same thing. So you're kind of thinking if black can kind of get coordinated, then, I mean, you know, this lights out, right? The problem is a very easy way for white to open this position with e4, going up, making a rook lift, and coming over here. And you see that this king is really, really trapped. The king actually doesn't have anywhere to go at the moment. You know, he is completely stalemated. So that is the main reason why white is so completely winning this position. Plus, they're up a pawn, well, which isn't anything super major. So we do see rook to f6. We got queen down to h5 with check. King goes to g8. We got queen back to e8 with check. The queen does go to f8, and now we have taken advantage of the other rook that was undefended, and then we do take queen takes a4. We do allow our knight to be taken, but I mean, that's a very nice trade, trading a knight for a rook. You've won the exchange. So the queen goes up to d7, and you see that white is just continuing to pick on weaknesses that black has. You know, he has kind of a loose rook over here, the pawn, and then he's checking, you know, attacking this other pawn. So we do see the knight going down to c4, but the knight to c4 I showed you guys a whole bunch of moves ago looks way better than this knight to c4 right here. This knight to c4 really doesn't mean anything at all. It does give away a pawn. And I mean, the knight is just kind of you know, just kind of in the wind chilling over there. So the knight does come up to d6. We got queen taking b6. So now white doesn't have to worry about any queenside pawns anymore now. So they're just good to go. The knight does come down to e4. We got queen over to e6 with check. The king goes over to h8. We got the rook going to f1, and this is just really overprotecting you know, the situation. We do kind of have this battery going on this f2 pawn, so we kind of don't want to give it up. So we do see rook going over to g5, queen going to h3, the king going over to g8. We got rook over to a2. Now it's crazy because before, these rooks didn't have really much life for white, and now you're going to see that they are going to be doing some really dangerous work. So the rook does go up to g6. We got the rook f to a1. And, I mean, we're lined up to go rook to a8 and just win the queen. And that is what happens coming up. Knight goes to g5. We see queen up to h5. And you see that basically the entire game, after a certain point, all Eugene Torre is doing is recognizing what undefended pieces black has in their position and just making threats against those pieces. And, I mean, there's really not a whole lot that you can really do in the situation if you're black. But we do see this check on f3. The king goes over to h1. The rook goes over to f6. And you do have your knight on pre. But we do drop the queen with rook to a8, like I was saying before. The knight goes down to d2 for what reason, I don't know. Rook takes f8 with check. Rook takes f8. We got queen taking d5 with check. And now we have just cleared another pawn off the board. The king goes down to h7. We see rook up to a7. Super logical square. I mean, pig on the 7th, right? I mean, the rook does come down to f6. We see queen over to h5 with check. The rook goes to h6, queen to f5 with check. And we really don't have a lot of options. We either go backwards and get mated on the back rank, or we, I mean, put the rook in the way, which is the only other move. We can't move the pawn because it's pinned by the rook. So after we see rook to g6, you know, there is the move rook to a6. And I mean, your rook is pinned and you're losing it next move. And it is in this position that Mikhail Tal resigns the game. Now, to show you guys, you know, just a tactical shot that white actually has. Oh, no, they don't. Because the rook is not on the correct square. Okay. For some reason, I'm like imagining the rook is one higher. But just to kind of show you guys the tactic I was thinking about. You know, if you did have this particular position, but let's say, let's just move, let's just make let's make this move here. You know, the rook is pinned. Let's say black like just makes a random move for no reason, right? You do have this move here, a rook to h8, and this is deflecting the king away from the protection of that rook. And then, I mean, it would just be this type of a situation here. So for some reason, I was imagining the rook was on a8, and I was thinking, okay, well, that's a tactic there. But, I mean, you might as well just win the rook the other way. But just to kind of show you guys one of the tactics that could come up that way. But anyways, backing up, we did have this position here where Mikhail Tal does resign the game. So that, I mean, pretty much from, I don't know what move. Probably around, let me see. About this position here, when the rook takes on a4, you basically just see, you know, Eugene Torre put on a school for just basically attacking undefended pieces in the person's position. So if you aren't really sure what to do in your positions, you know, when you're playing your own games, this would be definitely a very good, you know, game to use as an example as far as like what you should be looking for in your opponent's position to try to attack, because you just see it. I mean, knight takes f7, and then we're just looking at, you know, all of the possibilities with that. And then after so long, you know, you get in this position here where there's another piece that's, you know, undefended. And then we get in this position here where now there's another piece that's undefended. So it's like, you know, Mikhail Tal is just constantly putting his pieces where, you know, he cannot, you know, defend the piece. So it's a really, really nice game that was played by Torre. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys very much. I know at least one person wanted to see this game. So, I mean, you know, maybe some couple more people will see the game. So I appreciate you guys very much. You know, Maraming salamat aking makaibigan. Spasibo, paldies, spasibi. And I will see you guys next time.